There we go. All right. So, welcome to class number 2 of the River City Umpires Rules Clinics. I know we're getting started at 7 o'clock here, but trying to get everybody out of here early. It's being recorded. It'll be uploaded to YouTube as of tomorrow afternoon. See the River City Umpires YouTube page. So all of that will be on there. So one thing that I do like to do first is kind of turn it over to the board to see if anybody wants to say anything. So Tyrone, Rolando, or Jeff, do you guys have anything to say before we get started?
Hey,
Yeah, I'll
good evening.
go ahead, Ty.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hey, listen, we're gonna have this for about an hour and a half. So let Steve do his thing. You got any questions? Make sure we ask. But if we have to go longer, anybody do not want to stay can go ahead and drop off. We'll answer the questions that's necessary, and we want to make sure everybody get what they need. Also, I can't emphasize enough to make sure that all the umpires on Saturday to have your gear. We're going to be doing a lot of work on Saturday. Also, we're going to go over some rules and stuff afterwards. So if you want to join, make sure you bring a copy of your test, and we all can get together, get it done, so we get this stuff turned in. I don't have anything other than that, Mr. President.
Ditto, all of that. Hey, on this training tonight, like as Ty said, it was an hour and a half. Let's not beat the dead horse. Sometimes we can beat a dead horse. So try to pay attention when it's being put out, and then you hear it, and then we roll from there. So that we're not staying forever and a day. So let's do it.
All right. Awesome. Rolando, can you hear us yet?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, there you go. So what's PEBCAT problem? Let me check one thing here, and then we'll get started.
Wear some long johns Saturday.
That's what I was thinking. I hope it's not this cold on Saturday, because it's cold right now. All right, so first off, what we're going to get started with, as I normally do, is we're going to talk about the rules changes. So again, player communication equipment, I like to try to harp on this stuff. I know we talked about it last week in detail, but just want to remind everybody, these questions are on the test. So player communication, wristbands must be worn properly on the wrist. Pitchers must have it on their non-pitching arm. The penalty is a team warning to the head coach, and the next offender is ejected along with the head coach. Okay, pitchers may not have white, gray, or distracting. One-way communication devices are permissible from the dugout to the catcher. To the catcher only for the purposes of calling pitches. Coach cannot be outside of the dugout while they're calling pitches in that manner. Okay, again, first is a team warning, and the next offender is ejected along with the head coach. Okay. Another rule change is the umpire-in-chief, the removal of the ability to forfeit a game because of spectators. As I said last week, if you feel your safety is in jeopardy, leave. Let Fasha figure out what's going to happen with the game. Okay. Yeah, you still have the right to suspend said game. Go get game administration. They should have a game administrator there at all times. If they lose control of the game, then we can suspend the game and let the powers that be figure that out. Okay. Also, malicious contact was a point of emphasis, right? So just know the malicious contact rule. We went over it last week. Profanity, direct or indirect. Also, pace of play, right? So they want these games to get moving. We want them to get moving. We don't get paid by the hour. We get paid by the game. So we want the game. We want to eliminate the parts of the game that we can control. So that's between innings, getting players in and out of the dugout, etc. They do want us to enforce that 20-second time limit between pitches. Generally, they get the ball, they turn around, they step on the rubber, they get their signs, and they go. Don't let them make three laps around the mound, right? time between half innings, right? And also batter repeatedly stepping out of the box. They want to try to avoid that. Again, they're allowed to step out with 1 foot. If they step out with both feet, but they're right next to the batter's box, let it go. If they start walking all the way to the dugout, keep them in that box. Okay. Umpires time management, speed of the game. That includes getting there on time, ready to go, right? As well as all the other in between innings and the pace of play. They also want us to kind of crack down on excessive player conferences, right? We don't want the shortstop to go to the pitcher between every other batter to try to calm them down, right? We kind of want to use our judgment there, right? So if you think that they're purposely trying to slow the game down to let a bullpen pitcher warm up or something, let's get them moving. Don't let them call those additional timeouts, okay? And generally, my rule of thumb is there's no reason why you need a timeout to run the ball into the pitcher. So get the ball in and let's go. All right, little review from last week. So there are, what we did last week is we reviewed call outs for Rule 1. So we looked at Rule 1, we defined extending the dugout, equipment and ball legality. We also reviewed call outs for Rule 2. So the definitions. Okay. We defined the following: interference versus obstruction. That was a point of emphasis in 2023. Infield fly, overrunning a base, lodged ball. Again, that was a rule clarification last year. Legal slides and forced play slide rule. And I also have a couple of follow-ups to last week. So one of them is a mistake and one of them is a clarification. So there was a question last week, and there is a rules question on this, and we will review the exact rule later, right, as well as a very specific question. But I want to get up in front and say, listen, you made a mistake on kind of a ruling on a situation, and I want to correct it because, I'm finding my rule book, sorry, because I think it's important not only that we, sorry, I'm closing my Teams chat. So not only that the new people have the correct rule as well as veterans, but it's also important to own up to said mistakes. We're all learning. If we ever stop learning, we start to get to be worse, right? So nobody here is infallible. That includes our board. Our board, I'm sure, has made plenty of rule interpretation mistakes as well. But so that's why we have a book, and that's why we look it up and learn. So we were talking about a runner on first base with a base hit to left field where R1 falls, grounds second, decides not to go to third, and the batter runner is obstructed between first and second. Okay. So what I said last week was, well, you can't push the runner. That statement is not true. So let's take a look at the wording of the rule. So 832, when a runner is obstructed while advancing or returning to a base, the umpire shall award the obstructed runner a minimum of 1 base beyond the runner's position on base when the obstruction occurred. The umpire shall award the obstructed runner and each other runner any additional bases that would nullify the obstruction. So the book says we need to nullify the obstruction. If it happened between first and second, and he gets thrown out or not, right? He is entitled to second. In order to nullify that obstruction, we have to move the runner from second to third. Okay. So the answer to that question is push the preceding runner from second to third. Okay. I do want to open up for any questions there. Does anybody have any questions there on that?
No, you good. Go ahead. Move on, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is a test question, by the way. Okay, awesome. All right, so moving on for a clarification. I told everybody that I was going to have an answer for you. about a runner running into a fielder after the ball deflects off of the pitcher. Now, I did have to go down into the case book for this. So the rule book says the runner is out when intentionally interferes with a throw or throwing ball, or he hinders a fielder on his initial attempt to field the batted ball. The fielder is not protected except from intentional contact if he misplays the ball and has to move from his original position, or is being put out, is prevented by an illegal act by anyone connected with the team, right? Or by the batter runner, or the runner retiring to the base, right? So in this situation, the fielder is protected on his play, not the initial play. Okay. So if we read the rule, it doesn't say that he hinders a fielder on the initial play. It says hinders the fielder on his initial play. So the pitcher making a play on the ball has no bearing on the batter's responsibility to avoid the fielder. Now, if the batter gets hit with the ball off of the pitcher, the batter is not guilty of interference. It is a live ball. So there is a distinction there that we need to know. Okay.
So it's the same as it's coming straight off the bat instead of as well as coming off the pitcher's glove.
Correct.
Right.
The only difference is if he's hit with the ball off the pitcher, it is a live ball in play. If he interferes with the fielder, he's out.
He's out.
Okay. So note here, the runner is relieved of their responsibility of interference when the ball is deflected, right? Because it's still considered interference if you're hit with the batted ball, but not interference with the fielder. He still has.
So for instance, Steve, ball hit, bounces off the pitcher, rolls towards the second baseman. Runner going from first to second, runs over the second baseman while he's attempting to make a play on the ball. He is then out, correct?
Correct. That is an out.
Yes.
All right.
And this is the case book, right? So right from the case book, I wish we would get a copy of the Facebook case book as well, right? There's another situation that I have when we get to questions later that the answer doesn't actually come from the case book, it comes from the umpire manual, which is annoying that you need to look at 3 or 4 different books, but it's not as bad as some other sports. So here's the case book, right? Situation 11, still 842G. With R2 on second base, a grounded batted ball deflects off of F1's ankle. The ball deflects towards S5 as he moves in the field the ball and he's run over by R2. Both R2 and the batter runner are safe. Is this interference or obstruction? Ruling. This is interference and R2 will be declared out. F5 must be given the opportunity to field this batted ball on his initial attempt. Batter runner will be awarded first base unless it's judged the interference prevented a defense from making a double play. So you can get 2. You better be damn sure you're getting 2. Okay. Tyrone, you want to add anything to that? I saw you smiling.
So the general overview of this is that regardless if a ball is deflected by or a play made on it by a pitcher, that has no relevance with the guys running. If they run into a fielder, they're going to be out.
Correct.
Okay.
The reason I was smiling is because that was one of my questions, and I got the same information that you got, Steve. So I'm nodding like, yes, you're putting out right information.
And this came up with, I was talking to Steve on last weekend. Jeff and I had this exact play at Clay, the exact play at Clay. So thank you for clarifying this. But so Steve, let's change it up just a hair. Instead of deflecting off of the pitcher, the ground ball is hit to the second baseman, runner on first. Second baseman boots the ball, and it goes several steps away. He moves to gather the ball that he booted, and when he fields the ball, then we've got a collision. Is it a different answer now?
No. So right here in the same rule, a fielder is not protected except from intentional contact, assuming this is unintentional, if he misplays the ball and has to move from his original location.
Yeah, so he has to move. He has to move from his location. He has to take 4 steps, 5 steps to go gather the errant ball, and at that point we have a collision.
I don't have interference because he had to move from his original location. He is no longer protected. Okay. All right.
No,
So-
no, not okay.
Hey,
No,
Bill,
not okay.
Bill,
I'm still
listen,
confused.
So it's a different answer. It's obstruction.
Bill, don't read into it. It tells you right there. Once he make an initial play, his initial play, he touched that ball and it went to the right or left. Right, that's initial. After that, all bets are off. All bets
Gotcha.
off.
Because he had to move.
Okay.
All right. So today, my goal is to get through rules 3, 4, and 5. If we could talk about the pitcher a little bit, that's great. But next week will be the rules where we're talking about balks. And I know a lot of people really liked that one last year. So we've got the same format. Again, next week is balks. So we'll talk about that next week. So getting started. Substituting coaching, bench and field conduct, and charge conferences. So substituting. There is a test question on substitutes, by the way. After the lineups are official, the player listed as the pitcher must pitch to the first opposing batter until the first opposing batter has completed their at-bat, except in the case of an injury to the starting pitcher. Okay. The penalty for this is if the starting pitcher does not face one batter, the player may not return to pitch. Okay. This is a big one, at least in my opinion. Projected substitutes are not allowed. Now, I will work with the coaches. Coach wants to come in and say, listen, my 2 batter and my 3 batter, I'm going to substitute up for in this inning, and probably also the 5th. And he's going to give me those numbers, and I'm going to write those numbers down very lightly and confirm when they come up or when they don't, because we cannot take those projected substitutes. But personally, I'm going to help those coaches out. I'm going to help them, right? Hey, okay, thank you for bringing those to me. I'm going to confirm with you as they come up, okay? But we are not supposed to take projected substitutes. So if you don't want to do that, you do not have to. Say, hey, I can't take projected substitutes. I need you to send them, tell me as they come up or come out, okay? If no announcement of a substitute is made, a substitute has entered the game, is considered to have entered the game, and is called an unannounced substitute when a runner takes the place of a runner who has been replaced. Right? So somebody comes out of the dugout, jumps on first base. Now, 98% of the time, that's your courtesy runner for your pitcher or catcher. I highly suggest you confirm that with the coach. Because the one time he didn't want that, or sends out the wrong guy, or whatever, or the other coach thinks it was a straight sub and not a courtesy runner, you're going to have a clusterfuck. Excuse my French. Okay? So confirm that it is a courtesy runner. Hey, Joe, is this a courtesy runner? Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay? Just eliminates confusion. A pitcher takes a position on the pitcher's plate. This is the rule that applies when the shortstop, fooling around, takes the ball, steps on the pitcher's plate, and goes to deliver a pitch and fool around. This rule is why he's now the pitcher for one batter. Okay. A fielder reaches the position usually occupied by the fielder who has been replaced. So clearly that's somebody not coming out of the dugout and somebody else going out in place. And a batter, not a patter. Takes position in the batter's box. So if a batter comes to the batter's box, we have a substitute. Okay. Now, we're not checking the lineup every time. I don't know their lineup. When somebody comes into the box, I'm assuming they're correct. Okay. All right, continuing on with substituting. Let's talk about illegal substitutes. Discovery of an illegal substitute on offense by the umpire or defensive team results in that runner being called out and restricted to the bench for the remainder of the game. Cannot come back into the game. even if he is eligible. Okay. An illegal substitute can be called out by anybody or caught by anybody. That's the umpire, the opposing coach, the scorekeeper. Anybody can call an illegal substitute out. Not anybody can call a batting out of order. Okay. Subsequent offenses by that offender result in an out and ejection. Okay. Should an illegal substitute score a run, advance, or cause a play to be made on another runner, the discovery must be made prior to the next pitch of the batter of either team. Right? So this is just your general appeal play. You have until the next pitch to discover that issue. Right? Illegal substitute on defense, being we can't call an out on defense or give an out back to the offense, you just replace that player on defense immediately. Okay. If the defensive illegal substitute was found to be involved in the play, the offense has a choice to redo the at-bat or let the play stand. Okay, they do have that choice. Any player substituted for illegally may re-enter if eligible to do so. So if they're substituted for illegally, they're out of the game, they're not in the lineup. If they're eligible to come back in, they can. If they're not, somebody else has to come in. Okay. Any questions before we move on?
Hey, Steve, when you say they eligible, make sure we let them know that means they are a starter and they could re-enter the game.
Correct. They have to be a starter and they can re-enter and have not already used their re-entry criteria.
Correct.
All right. Substitutions with the pitcher. If a pitcher is substituted for while on defense, the player must pitch to one batter unless the third out is made on base before being removed from the mound, right? We all know you've got to finish the batter. The exception is he comes in with 2 outs, picks the guy off at first base. That's the third out of the inning. He does not have to come start the next inning. You can have a different pitcher. Okay. The purpose behind that rule is to keep the game moving, right? So start the next half inning, it's not slowing anything down per se, right? A pitcher removed from the mound may only return to pitch once per inning. I believe some of you guys that have been down in this area for a long time had a school that used to do this all the time in the playoffs, correct?
Yeah, the team in Gainesville, PK Young.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so that pitcher removed from the mound may return only once to pitch per inning. Okay, so they can come back first inning, have the first baseman come pitch. He doesn't leave the field, stays on the field, pitches to one batter, have him finish the inning, and he can do that every inning. Okay. Pitchers that are removed without satisfying the one batter requirement or the third out are not eligible to return to the mound for that. Okay. So if he starting pitcher feels a twinge in his elbow in the first pitch of the game, the batter's still up, they remove him from the mound. It does not matter if he feels better later, he cannot return. Okay. If a pitcher's replacement requires more warm-up pitches than permitted, 8, that pitcher may not return to the position of pitcher for the duration. That's the removed pitcher. If he's removed and the guy behind him needs more warm-up pitches because he was cold, because the first guy got injured, right? But he's still okay enough to play first base, he cannot come back in if that guy, that replacement, needed more than 8 pitches. Okay.
Is that on an injury?
Generally, that's for an injury, yes. But again, it doesn't have to be an injury. If he requests a couple more pitches, am I going to tell him no if he wants 2 more? Probably not. But I'm also going to tell the coach you can have a couple more, but your first guy's not eligible. I've never had that situation.
If that pitcher's being removed because he's injured and he stays in the game, that's kind of a ruse, isn't it?
Not my problem.
Well, I mean, he shouldn't be allowed to come back at all.
But we're not we're not making the call whether he's good enough to stay in the game or not. Right? Because you can be good enough to
he's
play first
prohibited.
base but not pitch.
But the only stipulation is if that guy goes over 8 pitches, that guy can't come back.
Correct.
Okay.
Right? Because he could have a blister on his finger and it's perfectly fine to play first base, but he can't pitch with it. Right? And if it developed in the middle of the inning, you have somebody come in and he's cold. Hey, he's injured. He's got this thing on his finger. What am I going to say? You only get 8 pitches. No, you could have as many. It's considered an injury, but he can stay in the game. That's fine. But he can't come back in now.
To pitch.
Okay.
All right. General substitutions. Any of the starting players may be withdrawn and re-entered once per game. Right? Pretty straightforward. We know this one. Withdrawn substitutes may not re-enter. Okay? So if the substitute goes in and then comes out, he cannot re-enter.
Yep, he's done.
There is an exception to that, and I do want to mention what that exception is. If the team has used all of their substitutes, all of their eligible players have been in the game, and all the starters have came back, or maybe they came with 10, right? Came in, starter went in, or sub went in, then the starter went back in, and they're out of players, and somebody gets hurt. That substitute can go in that other spot in the lineup. Okay, that is your one exception. Is if there's nobody eligible to play, they can have somebody else come in. Rarely happens, but it does occasionally. Okay. All right, designated hitter. This rule changed, 3 or 4 years ago, right? So now we have 2 different types of designated hitters, right? One of them I call the traditional DH, right? So the traditional DH, designated hitter, may hit for any of the 1-9 players in the starting defensive lineup. Defensive player must be designated prior to the start of the game and on the official lineup card. So
Hey, Steve,
again, that's your.
When you do this, we'll just slow it down just a little bit, right?
Yep.
And make sure we get everything answered for everybody.
Yep. So this one is very similar to the MLB rule, where the MLB DHs for the pitcher. You do not have to DH for the pitcher. You can DH for anybody. Okay. If a pinch hitter or pinch runner is entered for the DH, this substitute now becomes the DH. Re-entry rules apply. He is a starter. What helped me is picture your 9 players. Your DH is also a fielder, quote unquote, right? And can be substituted for, no problem. In this particular case, you should always ask the coach when you're looking at DHs, is this a traditional DH or is this a player DH? And I will get to that in a moment. Okay. They are considered a 10th starter, so they have re-entry ability. Okay, so you can substitute for the DH and then put him back in. Okay. There are a few situations where the DH is terminated in this particular case. 1, the defensive player who was hit for enters the game as a batter or a pinch runner. So I'm going to use MLB as the example here because we've all seen MLB games and it's pretty simple to kind of grasp your head around it. If they're DHing for the pitcher is able to bat. But when the pitcher bats, the DH is killed. There's no more DH, right? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay. The DH assumes a defensive position. The DH can go into the field. If he goes into the field, the starter that was out there, out. Sorry, the player that he was DHing for is now out. The DH is now that player. And there is no more DH. He is a fielder in that batting order spot.
What's the return policy on these people that are taken out?
They're starters.
One time.
You said that somebody comes in to pinch hit or pinch run for the DH, he has to enter in that DH position.
Correct.
All right. Well, then how? I guess what I'm saying is now the DH that has been pinch run for or pitch hit for, he has re-entry position as a position player.
He has a re-entry as that DH spot.
The guy that started as a DH can't come back as a position player, can he?
He can. He has
Okay.
he has starter re-entry ability. If the starter is on the bench, right, and he wants to re-enter the starter, he's able to get re-entered, right?
Okay.
Are we in agreement there?
All right.
Right. So if he comes back in the game, he must go back in that same batting order spot.
Right.
If the DH is still established, he could re-enter to the DH spot.
Not in a different batting order spot.
He stays in that hole. All right. Now here's where I get confused. Who's the guy that allows the DH to be burned and taken completely out of the lineup?
Yeah.
Now explain that one to me again.
Now you have no DH, you have 9 fielders.
But when does
At that point, the player that is the DH cannot re-enter the game, correct?
He still has if he had only come out of the game once, he still has re-entry ability.
Hold on, Steve. He's asking about the substitute that you put in the DH spot. Now he's dead if you re-enter the starter.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
If you burn the DH and the player that he was DHing for hits or runs, the DH is burned for the game.
The DH is burned for the game. That player still has re-entry ability to that batting order spot.
Correct.
Okay. So if you burn the DH to let the second baseman hit the second time through the lineup, the DH can come back in the second baseman's spot the third time through the lineup.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. All right.
Okay. Just think about it this way. If they're a starter, they can come back in once. Okay.
But if it's burned, they come back in a traditional 9-man lineup.
Correct. Okay. Any questions on the traditional DH? This is the easy one.
Oh,
This is the easy one. All right. Moving on. The next one.
Hey, hold on a second, Steve. Dion, unmute your button and ask the question, Dion.
Yeah, I think the confusion come in is when the DH enters the game as a fielder, where do he hit it? Because he's no longer hitting for the pitcher or for that batter.
that spot.
If he enters the game, the starter in that spot is now on the bench, and he stays in that spot.
So he hits in a different position. Because now the person.
If the DH was hitting in the 3 spot, right, and he was DHing for the pitcher, and the DH goes into the field, that pitcher is now on the bench. That DH still hits in the 3 spot.
Yes. Now my question is, you hitting for the pitcher. You come in now, you're playing first base.
No, not a problem.
The first baseman is full. And the coach wanted him to hit in the first baseman position.
You cannot have the DH and the player he was hitting for both on the field at the same time. That is an illegal substitute.
All right, that's all.
Yep. Good question.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for clearing it up. Dion, thank you.
Yeah, if you have a question, right, stop me and ask. I might not see the chat. All right. Next one. Designated hitter continue. Again, this is the second type. This is called a two-way designated hitter. I call it a player DH. Okay. Starting DH.
Please mute
I'll mute him.
whoever that is.
That's Rolo. The starting DH may be any one of the starting defensive players as well as a starting offensive player. You know that's confusing. They can be a defensive player and an offensive player. Let's use an example. You can, prior to the game, at the plate meeting, handing the lineup, you can say, my second baseman is going to play second base and DH. Or my pitcher is going to play pitcher and designated hitter because my pitcher is my best hitter and I don't want him to, I want him to hit when he's not pitching, right? And I don't want him to play any other fielding position, okay? That's the example. Any questions there?
Let me say something about that real quick.
Yep.
If the pitcher is a DH and he hit a, he got a base hit, he's on first base, he cannot have a courtesy runner because he saw the role as a DH, not as a pitcher.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So player DHs cannot have courtesy runners.
Great point, Rolando, great point.
All right. The defensive player, as I said, now has two positions, hitter and fielder. So they're a hitter as a DH and they're a fielder as wherever they are. So in this case, example, the pitcher. Okay. The role of the defensive player may be substituted for by any legal substitute. Let's use my example with the pitcher. You have your pitcher, who is your pitcher and DH. That pitcher hits his pitch count limit. I don't know what it is, but I know they have one. They substitute for the pitcher. Comes off the bench, substitutes for him. That player is still the DH. Now you have a new pitcher. Any
And the new
questions
pitcher
so far?
Doesn't get to that.
That new pitcher does not get to that.
Right.
So we go from a 9-man lineup with that special DH role, and we now become a traditional 10-man lineup with DH when that happens.
I don't like to call it a traditional 10-man.
But whatever your wording is, whatever your wording is.
Because it's not a traditional DH, different rules apply.
Okay. Conceptually, is that the result?
Yes, conceptually, but I don't want to confuse anybody by saying it is a traditional 10-man lineup. We have two positions here, pitcher and DH. Same person to start the game. Okay. If the defensive player is substituted for, the starter still has re-entry rights for this position. So if you remove the pitcher, well, let's not use the pitcher because he's off the field. If he's off the field, he can't come back in to pitch, right? So let's say he was first base. Comes out, he can come back in to play defense. Okay. The role of this designated hitter is terminated for the remainder of the game when a substitute or former substitute for the DH subsequently participates on offense. So they cannot substitute for this DH on offense. If they substitute for this DH on offense, they are substituting for the DH and the fielder, and the role of DH is killed. They are now on a traditional 9-man lineup. Okay?
Even though they started with 10, they'll end with 9.
Don't confuse this with a 10-man lineup. The player DH is a 9-man lineup.
All right.
Okay? There's only 9 players listed on that lineup. One of them is a player DH. If you substitute for the DH on offense, the role of the DH is killed for the game. That player now plays that position, or then they can move their positions around, right? and the starter still has re-entry ability. Okay.
Good God Almighty.
I'm trying to make this simple. It's not, but I'm trying, right? So again, if you cannot substitute for the DH on offense in this particular case. If you substitute for the role of DH, the DH is killed and they're going into that batter spot and the starter is now on the bench. Is that simple enough for this piece? Question. We're not gonna, I don't want to move on until everybody kind of gets this, right? If you substitute for a player DH on offense, the DH is killed. End of story. Are we good?
Yes.
That's on offense only. That's on offense only when it comes to bat.
Correct. Offense only. Cannot. So if he's a offensive DH and a player DH, he is always batting. If he is ever not batting, you're killing the DH.
Okay, good.
Can I put it like this just to make
and if he substituted, if a pinch runner is put in for that player DH, the DH is terminated. Anything on offense, that player DH is terminated.
I want to go back to your initial when you said player DH for maybe the second baseman. So he's the player DH, he's the second baseman. So he's hitting, playing second baseman to start the game. In the second inning, they put a different second baseman in there. He's still hitting for the second base position. In the fifth inning, they put another second baseman in there. He's still hitting for the second baseman position. Now, after the fifth inning, that second substitute they brought in goes to the offensive side and hits the kid that was the initial DH second baseman is burned. And that guy that was the second substitute at second base is now the hitter and the second baseman.
The DH is burned.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he can hit. If you have a player DH at a position, you can have 6 third basemen, but that kid's still the DH hitting for the third base position.
Yes, I want to be careful with the word you said, burned. The DH is burned, but that DH has not come in more than once, right?
Yeah, but in the seventh inning, because he's the starter, he can go back to that position and finish the game.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. I want to see that scorecard.
All right. So they usually don't get that complicated, guys. Don't let that scare you. It's usually just one. Okay.
Thank God.
Again, the starting defensive player, DH, substituted for as a hitter or runner. If they get substituted for as a hitter or a runner, the DH is burned. Okay. In summary, this DH could be listed as a P/DH or 2B/DH or 4DH or shortstop DH, right? You will usually see it like that on the lineup card. They will usually write P/DH or 4/DH. That is how it should be written. I've never actually seen a coach write a DH correctly, though, so expect it not to be exact. Okay. The player pitcher may be substituted for. If the DH is ever substituted for on offense, then the role of the DH is terminated and that substitute enters the game as a fielder. Are there any questions? I try to make this as simple as possible. Right? If I can make it simpler, please let me know. But are there any questions on these two different DH rules? One of them is traditional. Generally, we don't have a problem with that one. It's this one that tends to trip people up. Okay.
I'm good.
You have it on your test and you're not sure, ask the question. Okay. Again, we are not medical professionals, so the concussions are on here. Now, this has been a test question in the past, so I'm putting it on here. We are not medical professionals. We are not asking you to be. However, the book does say if the concussion is clear and obvious occurs, loss of consciousness, headache, dizziness, confusion, or balance problems, the player shall be immediately removed and not allowed to return to play until cleared by an appropriate healthcare professional. Okay. I do not want to expand on that. That is just what the book says. Again, we are not medical professionals. Blood on the uniform. A player or coach that is bleeding or has blood on the uniform shall be prohibited from participating. Okay. Uniforms must be changed or cleaned if there's blood on them. Okay. Umpires shall give players and coaches a reasonable amount of time to administer medical care. So somebody slides and they get hurt and the trainer comes out taping them up, let them tape that person up, right? If they need stitches, get them off the field and let's keep playing, right? The re-entry rule still does apply to starters in this case. So if the starter comes out for that reason, they're allowed to come back in. If the substitute leaves for that reason, well, they're substituted for. There's nothing they can do now. Okay. Coaching. No coach shall physically assist a runner during playing action. The penalty, the runner is out immediately. Okay. It is delayed dead ball. It's not an immediate dead ball. Okay. For newer guys and guys who maybe are new to high school and only done rec ball, for those of us who've been around a lot, we've seen these horror stories, right? High fives are not assisting. Slaps on the behind are not assisting. Slaps during home runs or dead balls are not assisting. That is not assisting a runner. You have to actually assist the runner, not touch the runner. Assist the runner. That means he fell, helping him up. If he runs into the coach and he gets quote unquote obstructed by the coach, that's nothing, right? The coach pushes him. Again, that's assisting. Okay, there has to be a material assist. Touching is not assisting. Please don't let us get a phone call like that. Thanks. Okay. If a live thrown ball inadvertently touches a coach, the ball is live and in play. If a coach is judged to have intentionally interfered, the runner is out, and batter may also be called out. Okay, so there are your rule references for that.
So you have a runner rounding third coming home, playing at home. As he rounds third, scenario one, the third base coach doesn't get out of the way and is inadvertently hit, but does not try to stop the runner because he's going to be thrown out by a mile. Scenario two, he puts his hands up to try to slow down the runner and have him stop.
Yeah, so the first one
is nothing.
It's inadvertent. He's not trying to assist him. Now, so we have nothing. The second one, we have an out if he's trying to slow down the run. Protecting himself also is not assisting a runner. I would expect him to put his hands up if the runner is running right out. Right? Let's not. Very rarely are you going to see this. This is usually a rec ball thing, but you will. This is a question on the test.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
If the coach is found intentionally interfering with that runner, the runner is out. Is the ball dead immediately, or is it still delayed and we could play on?
Delayed dead ball because the defense has a chance to get additional outs.
Thank you.
And those additional outs stand.
Correct. All outs on the play stand.
Can we give a scenario on that though, like for delayed dead ball? So maybe these guys have never encountered a delayed dead ball. If you have a runner on first and second, and say you're at Trinity, and the guy hits one to the gap, and everybody's running, if he pushes the guy that was on second towards home because he stops, he's out. But you have to give the guy coming from first an opportunity to score. So it's not automatically dead. You have to let it finish because if that guy from first comes around and scores, you still get that run. Or subsequently, you can get the out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeremiah.
So all consequences of the play stand. You're not putting runners back, nothing like that.
Unless it's the third out.
Right.
Right, then it turns into a timing play. Okay. All right. This one we tend to not have so much of a problem at the high school level. This is more of a rec ball thing, but the head coach must attend the pregame conference. They cannot send a captain in their place or an assistant coach. It must be the head coach. If you don't know the team, whoever came up is the head coach for the game. right?
Right.
So sometimes we get teams from out of town. Guy comes to the home plate, and there's no reason why you think he's not the head coach until the second or third inning. And guy comes out trying to talk to you, and he's not the head coach. He's the head coach today.
Right.
All right. Bench and field conduct. No coach, player, or substitute may fake a tag without the ball. This is a big one. You will see this 2 or 3 times a year. I think I saw it probably 3 or 4 times last year. You might see it more at the middle school level and JV level as the kids are learning. But a fake tag without the ball is also obstruction. Okay. It's considered a dangerous play. It comes with a warning to the team that the next offender is ejected. Okay. You will generally see it on stolen base attempts, right? Where the catcher maybe doesn't throw down and the shortstop or second baseman tries to fake that tag, right? That obstruction happens prior to second base, so you're not giving him third, so you just give him second. You call time. The coaches know this rule, I promise. Okay, this is a kid trying to do something on his own. You tell the head coach, this is your warning. That was a fake tag. The next offender is ejected.
Steve, is it a warning? Because I'm like always under the impression and sure that if you do that, it's the runner gets a base.
He does, but it depends on where it happens, right? So on a steal attempt, that obstruction is happening prior to second.
Right.
Because it's making him slide prior to second. So yes, he does get a base. He's getting second. Because it happened prior to second. Right. If it happens going back to second base on, say, a tag-up play, you have to give him third because he already had second, right?
Got it. Correct. Got
Mm.
Steve, but if it happens going to second and the ball gets by and he's faking that tag, then he should get third because he could have made third.
You have the ability to nullify the obstruction by awarding the proper bases. So if you think he would have made third, then you would give him third.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I just want to say it's just not to second.
Correct. It's minimum second.
Right. Yep.
I mean, if you have a runner on first and there's a ball hit to the right fielder, and that runner on first is rounding second to try to go to third, and you have the shortstop that tries to, simulate a tag to induce that runner to slide into second, you're going to give him third.
He's getting third.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I would do there too.
I agree.
With the warning
The
afterwards.
warning is more on the ejection, correct? You're
The
going to
warning
award
is
the
for-
base. The warning is for the ejection.
That's correct. The warning is for the ejection. Okay. All right. No coach, player, or substitute may carelessly throw a bat. Right. So the penalty that is the end of play. Again, same thing. End of playing action. The umpire shall issue a warning to the coach. Sorry, my puppy is fighting something he shouldn't. At the end of playing action, the umpire shall issue a warning to the coach of the team involved, and the next offender of the team shall be ejected. Okay. Again, no coach, player, substitute may commit any unsportsmanlike act. Right. So we don't put up with taunting or anything of that manner. That includes assistant coaches leaving their dugout or position to argue a call. We do not argue with assistant coaches, right? We can explain, we can have pleasantries with them, right? If they introduce themselves, absolutely, please shake their hand and say, hey, nice to meet you. My name is Steve or Bill, Jeff, whatever, right? But when we get into rule interpretations, we are not talking to assistant coaches, okay? They will think you're being rude, and they will think that you're ignoring them, and you are, because they're not the head coach. Okay. The penalty there is for the unsportsmanlike act or the coach is leaving their dugout or position. The umpire shall warn the offender unless the offense is judged to be major, in which case the offender shall be ejected. So let's talk about a major, right? Player walks out of the dugout and flips off the other team, right? We're not warning for that. That's a major. We're going to eject for that, right? Player curses under his breath. probably here's your warning, you need to watch your mouth kind of thing, right? So kind of use your judgment, right? Use your warnings where you can, but if it's major, like flipping off the other team, eject them, okay? All right, additional bench and field conduct. Oh, sorry. This slide was, nope, that's right. No coach, player, or substitute may deliberately throw a bat, helmet, etc. Right? So generally, this comes with a warning, right? So they throw their bat. Generally, it depends on severity, right? So use your judgment there. Initiate malicious contact. This is not, you do not have warnings here. This is an ejection. Okay. Again, point of emphasis and malicious contact to this year. The ball is immediately dead. If it's on offense, the player is out and ejected. Doesn't matter what happened on the play. The ball can be in center field. He is out and ejected unless he already scored. If it's on the defense, the umpire will rule safer out and award bases accordingly had the malicious contact not occurred. I don't know a situation that I would rule him out if the defense maliciously contacts somebody unless he was already out. So tobacco-like products, so no dip from the coaches, right? That's usually the kicker here. They may not leave their positions or bench area during a fight or physical confrontation. So this is another big one, right? The coaches are allowed to leave the area to prevent or help break up a fight that are the coaches that are not ejected. However, if a fight occurs and you have benches clearing, clearly everybody left their positions or bench area. You need to write up, when you do your write-up, you need to write it up that way. That everybody left their positions and let Fasha deal with the rest, okay? They cannot leave their positions or bench area during a fight, okay? This should go without saying, right? Have physical contact, spit, kick, dirt, or engage in any other physical action directed toward an umpire, right? The above offenses come with an immediate ejection. Okay. Warnings. I always like warnings. Warnings may be verbal or written. Okay, that is in the book. There are multiple levels of warnings, verbal and written. One thing I will call out here is a written warning comes with an added penalty of the offender being restricted to the bench for the remainder of the game. That is a high school rule. However, Florida High School Sports Athletic Association does not enforce this, so we do not restrict coaches to the bench. Okay.
Wow.
If a coach has previously received a verbal warning, you now, if he gets another warning, it is now a written warning. Okay, a written warning. What's a written warning look like? You pop out your lineup card. Coach, this is your official warning. If you continue, you will leave me no choice but to eject you from this game. Okay, very clear, very concise, quick, easy. If the coach has previously received a written warning, the coach shall be ejected from the contest if the acts continue. Okay, if you give him a warning, the next step is ejection. My note and suggestion is major big offenses, you can and should skip some of these steps I'm about to outline, right? Coach comes and kicks dirt on you. That's an immediate ejection, whether he had a warning or not, right? Player curses under his breath or coach curses under his breath, it might be a verbal warning, right? So I use the acronym IAWE, IAWE. Okay, some of you guys have probably heard that from me. This is what works for me. Starts out with I, ignore, right? Pending it's not major. Number two, you're going to acknowledge, right? So let's say the coach is chirping about your strike zone. The first chirp, I'm ignoring. Okay. Pending, you're not calling me by name, trying to purposely get my attention, cursing, etc. Right? Let's just say, oh man, that ball was low. Okay, the first time I'm gonna ignore it. The second time it happens, I'm probably going to acknowledge it. Okay, coach, I hear you. Maybe look at the dugout. That works for a lot of people, right? So sometimes just looking at the dugout works for people, right? I don't really like it, but that's me. That doesn't mean it won't work for you. Okay. So acknowledge. I say, okay, thank you, coach. Got it. The next time, warn, right? Coach, I hear you. We're not discussing balls and strikes today. If this continues, you will leave me no choice but to eject you from that game, from this game. Okay. Now, generally, longer ball game. They say something in the first inning. They say something in the fourth inning. They say something in the seventh. I probably don't even acknowledge them because I probably forgot that I ignored them before. Right. If it starts happening quickly in quick succession, start going through your ignore, acknowledge, warn, and then if it continues, eject. Okay. Usually, if you give that warning, 9 out of 10 times the coach is going to stop. Okay. He knows that he got his point across, whatever he's trying to convey to you. He has his warning. You write it down on your lineup card. You write down the inning, the situation, and what you warned him for. Okay. Jeff, Rolando, Tyrone.
You want some coffee or anything?
Rob, anybody have anything to add to that?
Nope, I'm good. We're tracking.
Hey Steve, I got a question on this before you move on.
Go ahead.
For the so say the assistant coach leaves the dugout loudly to argue a call or whatever. I just want to make sure I got it right as far as the restrictions of the head coach. So the head coach received a written warning. Are they both still restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game, or the head coach is still good with that written warning? If I said that right.
So with a written warning, if you're warning the assistant coach and you give the assistant coach a warning and the head coach a warning,
if the assistant coach gets the warning, the head coach is not restricted to the dugout, or are they both still restricted to the dugout once I give that written warning?
Let's find out. I believe, actually, I think now that you ask, I believe
I don't think you can give the assistant coach a warning. I think the warning goes to the head.
It goes to the head coach. It says if he comes out loudly, argues the call, the head coach shall receive the written warning, and they both should be restricted to the duration of the game. So they both are to the dugout for the duration.
Yeah, but in the state of Florida, we do not restrict coaches. So
gotcha.
So just eject that assistant coach, and we'll send the report to Rolando. You don't even have to warn you don't even need to warn the head coach. Just eject the assistant, because if he leaves that box or if he leaves that dugout to argue a call, get rid of him.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure, because it says I just want to see the restriction part, but I'm good. Gotcha.
If it's on your test, the answer is they're both restricted.
Correct. Gotcha. That was my question. It is.
Test purposes, they're both restricted?
Yes, test purposes.
Okay.
Correct.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you, guys.
High school
for practical purposes, eject the assistant coach and send Rolando and Tyrone to report.
Gotcha. 10-4.
Any questions on this? Right. Again, this is what's worked for me. Okay. Bench conduct continuing. Batters warming up between innings may only do so on their respective on-deck circles. Charge conferences. Not more than 3 charge conferences during a 7-inning game for coaches or non-player representatives to the defensive team. Okay. In extra innings, each defensive team only gets 1 per inning. So if they didn't use any and they get to the 8th inning, they get 1 for that inning. In the 9th inning, they get 1. In the 10th inning, they get 1. They only get 1. They're not cumulative. So if they're not used, you use them or lose them. Okay. All right. Additional conferences, right? So that fourth one in a game, pitcher must be removed. If you remove the pitcher, does not count as a visit. Okay. Defensive conference concludes when the coach crosses the foul line. If it's in fair territory or when they start to head back to the dugout in foul territory. So it's not the MLB rule that they take a step away. Okay. Offense. Each team is granted not more than one timeout on offense per inning. All additional requests shall be denied. The timeout concludes when the coach starts to head back to their dugout or the coach's box. When either team has a charged conference, the other team may also have an uncharged conference, provided the conference concludes when the other team's conference concludes. So if the offense calls timeout to talk to their runners and batter, the defense can go out without a charged conference. Okay?
Test question.
That is a test question. All right, Rule 4, ground rules. The home team shall propose ground rules for unusual conditions during the contest, right? If the visiting coach agrees, they shall be in place for the game. The umpire-in-chief settles any disputes. With an exception, no ground rule may supersede the rule book, okay? A good example of this is coaches may not extend the dugout in an illegal way, even if they say we've always done it this way, right? So see our recording from last week for information on that. Pre-game conference. If you are at our training on Saturday, if your pre-game conference is more than 45 seconds, it's too long. Okay. Official lineups get delivered to the umpire-in-chief at pre-game. And the umpire-in-chief shall emphasize to both coaches that all participants should show good sportsmanship, right? So the umpire receives verification that all players are legally and properly equipped, right? I use the acronym LEGS. What does LEGS stand for? Lineup, equipment, ground rules, sportsmanship. Okay. Take the lineups, verify lineups, verify your DHs. Coaches, are all your players legally and properly equipped? Home team, take us around. Easy to take us around. Fourth one, guys, this is your reminder to show sportsmanship at all times during this contest. Good luck today. We don't need to talk about anything else. They know the rules. And maybe in the playoffs, we'll say congratulations to both teams. How long did that take me to explain to you?
You need to retract that last station about they know the rules, but go ahead.
They need to know the rules. I'm not discussing rules. We're not discussing them, right? If a coach wants to talk about, hey, what if I do this with my DH? I will absolutely help them, right? But I'm not entertaining questions from the last game. Nope, we're talking about this game. This is the game at hand. One thing you might also ask is if they were doing an anthem and announcing the teams, especially early in the season or potentially around senior nights, right? So again, keep it short, keep it simple. Let's go.
Do we announce or do we call, or we stopped calling captains out? I mean, we stopped at for a while back, but every now and then it's like that.
If they want to bring captains, by all means. I just stand at home plate and they get the hint pretty quick.
Okay, thank you.
Baseball's usually not that bad with captain. You just stand there and the head coaches will work their way down.
I do a lot of softball. It's a little different over there.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to get to the questions here in the next few minutes, and I'm almost there. So, all right, end the game. Run rules. We got a 10-run rule after 5 innings at the varsity level, right? We do not have time limits on varsity games. JV games only have a time limit if there's a game after it. However, if the JV coaches want to play with time limit and there's no game after, I ain't arguing with them. I suggest you don't argue either.
Okay. What I do not want is do not let JV play if there's a game behind it. Do not let them play over the 2-hour time limit. And the reason I say that is once they go over that limit, the game is no longer a sanctioned game, and our insurance will not cover unsanctioned games. Don't be the nice umpire and get the association and yourselves in some drama because you're a nice guy. Follow the guidelines. Period.
So Jeff, question: is it finish the inning or drop dead?
It's
You
drop
obviously
dead.
finished the inning.
It's drop dead. But I ain't tripping if you
No.
finish the inning. I'm tripping if you go another inning and another inning. Then I'm tripping. But I'm okay with finishing the inning.
Got it. All right.
And
Yeah,
remember,
yeah,
guys, you have to let the JV coaches know ahead of time, hey, this is 2 hour drop dead no matter what. And then that way you get yourself out of any bind, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve, don't forget about the 15-run rule also.
15.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Rolo. Good catch.
What's that? After 3, right?
After 4, right?
After 4. Okay.
And listen, if a JV says it's 15
3.5.
after 3, I ain't arguing with him. Right?
It's 3.5, 4 for
yeah, that's correct.
JV or varsity.
Yeah, that one is not in the book, so that's a FASA specific rule. All right, awesome. Let's talk about some questions. Whoever submitted questions onto the Google form, thank you so much. I have used some of your questions. I may have gone a little out of order, but I wanted some of them are pitcher and batter, and I know we're going to get to them in a future class. So we're going to talk about them later. So I will get them in here. We will talk about them.
Where is the Google form?
Rolando.
I'll send out a link. Don't worry.
Again? Yeah, it's in the
Thank
link.
you.
All right. With R1 on first, B1 singles to center. R1 trips over second and decides to stay there. Batter 1 heads to second, but is obstructed by F3 while F8's throw is en route to second. B1 is caught in a rundown and tagged out, while R1 remains at second. We just talked about this.
Second and third.
Batter 1 is awarded second, and R2 is pushed to third. Although B1 is entitled to second base, he cannot be awarded base because it's occupied. B1 is awarded third. R1 is pushed home. If umpire judges B1 could have made it to third had it not been for the obstruction and R1 stopping. Anybody want to take a guess?
Hey.
Right. When run is obstructed, right? We talked about this. Yes, I have A. No, sorry. It is A. It is A. Ignore my highlight. I need to fix that. The answer is A. My highlight is wrong. I apologize. The answer is A. Batter 1 is awarded second, and R2
How
is
can it
pushed
be
to
A?
third.
Where did R2 come from?
R2 was standing on second.
Where? Show me.
Right here. R1.
That's R1.
He's now on second, though. So now he's R2.
B1 R1, B1 R. It's
It might
the run.
be if it says R2, the test might say R1. Could just be a typo.
Let me explain to you guys about this question.
Please.
The answer will not, it would normally be A because that should say R2, but that's just a trick question. Instead, they use R2 instead of R1, and somebody caught it. So therefore, R2 is not even in the scenario, so we can't choose A, right? So therefore, you will have to choose C as your answer. Yeah, I'm telling
Right.
you because
You just messed it all up for me.
okay, this is to clear it up for you. They should have R1, but because they're trying to trick us, they put R2. And the reason I'm telling you this is someone already taken the test, and that came back wrong when we chose A.
Has anybody chosen C and taken the test and submitted it and gotten it right?
No.
In other words, a C confirmed the correct answer.
Hold on. Tyrone should be able to tell us what the answer is. I think that's where he's getting at. Tyrone, what answer did that?
B1 is awarded third and R1 is pushed home if the umpire, remember what it say, judges, right? B1 could have made it, and I can't read it because I got something in the way.
To
Continue
third.
to read.
But hold on, the person the person who
obstruction.
took the test and they submitted it. Oh no, I don't give you the answer yet. No, no.
No, it doesn't give you the answer, but the only answer is correct with C because B is saying B1 is entitled to second. He cannot be awarded that base because it's occupied, which is not true because you have to push because of the obstruction. So the answer has to be C.
Yeah,
This
can
is
you read C
fine.
for me? Because I can't see it. Can you read C?
What do you need, the question or the
C,
answer?
read the answer.
No,
Read
just the answer.
C.
The answer says B1 is awarded third and R1 pushed to home if the umpire judges B1 could have made it to third had it not been for the obstruction and R1 stopping.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yes.
That makes sense. Got
So
it.
therefore, you have to go there because there's no R2 in the initial question.
Right. Good catch.
This needs to be thrown out. This is stupid the way they're trying to trick
Yeah,
us.
we agree that it's stupid. I mean, but I'm just trying to correct you before you put that answer down there.
They're bitching that they don't have enough umpires all over the media and whatnot, and then they're giving us questions that you can't answer correctly.
You should take the football question. You should take the football test.
I do take the football in the same way with that. You know, softball, I get a 99 every time. Just saying.
Okay, let's rock and roll, man. I mean, that's
Moving
irrelevant
on to
to
the
me.
next question. A starting player who has been removed from the game once re-enters in the wrong position in the batting order. He is considered to be illegal substitute, an unreported substitute, an illegal substitute, or batting out of order.
I would say C, an illegal substitute.
I'm gonna say D.
E.
D.
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 Any of the starting players may be withdrawn and re-entered once, including the DH, provided such player occupies the same batting position whenever the player is in the lineup. An illegal substitute is a player who re-enters the game in the wrong position in the batting order.
What was those answers again?
On the Zoom call.
An illegal substitute, a legal substitute, an unreported substitute, an illegal substitute, or batting out of order.
It's gotta be
C.
C. Then.
So the answer C.
The answer is C.
Yeah,
This is directly from the book.
I got that question too. I gotta go change.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
That makes sense.
Now, if we're talking about, real scenarios, you kind of have to determine, is this guy stupid and is trying to re-enter, or is he? It's funky, right? All right. So, let's touch base on some dead ball here. Let's see how many slides do I have for the next question. Only have a couple. Okay, good.
No, I was iffing over that at the table when we did the water break. I went and cut it off because I forgot we had the Zoom call.
What's your question?
I'd rather be moving than standing there still. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Chuck.
I got it. All right. So moving on to Rule 5, right? Suspension of play, dead ball. I highly suggest you become familiar with the dead ball and delayed dead ball tables, right? Pages 37 and 38. Let me make sure those are the right rule numbers. It's 39 and 40 this year, so close enough, right? Here are your slides. Okay, this is your first table, dead ball table. This is where dead ball immediately, and your second one is on the next page or continues on the next page, right? Again, these are still immediate dead ball, and then we get into the next ones, right? So I'm not going to go through these all specifically. Get familiar with these tables. These tables are fantastic. They give you rule references and awards or penalties, so you can go to the rule reference and read them. Okay, so it is a great tool to learn them, right? So going through them quickly, the ball becomes immediately when a pitch ball touches a batter or his uniform. If they swing, it's a dead ball. It's also a strike. Okay. The ball is illegal batted when the batter enters the box with an illegal bat. Also, a foul ball is immediately dead, right? Interference by a runner, batter runner, retired runner is also immediate dead ball. So all these are immediate dead ball. A fair batted ball touches a runner or umpire prior to touching or going past the fielder. If it touches the runner is out. If it touches the umpire, the batter runner gets first. All other runners stay where they were at the time of the pitch unless forced. The ball becomes lodged or enters the uniform, it's immediately dead, leaves the field of play, or the pitcher balks. Okay, malicious contact also. Ball is delayed dead ball when batter's interference occurs, when a catcher or another fielder obstructs a batter, when an umpire interferes with the catcher's ability to put out a runner. Any personnel on offense calls time for the purposes of causing a balk. I will expand on that next week. The batter asks for time, and after the batter asks for time, the pitcher stops their motion. It's a dead ball. The umpire should call time and reset. That batter cannot cause a balk in that manner, and you cannot punish the pitcher for that. Okay? Anyone who deliberately removes their helmet while the ball is in live territory is a delayed dead ball. It also comes with a warning. The ball touches an illegal glove or mitt. Awarding bases, right? So when awarding bases to runners, you should always call the ball dead. So if there's obstruction and you're going to award bases, call time. A dead ball becomes live again when the ball is held by the pitcher in a legal pitching position on the pitcher's plate with the batter and catcher in their respective boxes, and the umpire calls play with the appropriate signal. This is a test question in those exact words. All right, so let's get through some of these rules questions, and this will set us up for balks for next week. Okay. R1 is on first base and steals on the pitch. With a 1-2 count, B2 swings at the pitch and it hits him on his hands. I don't care that it's around the bat, it hit him on his hands. The ball goes straight back to the backstop and R1 advances all the way to third on the play. A, the ball is dead, B2 is out, and R1 returns to first base. The ball is live, B2 is out, and R1 is allowed to remain at third. This is a foul ball. Or this is a hit by pitch.
D, hit by pitch.
Yep.
Are we sure?
No,
No.
listen.
Not now.
The answer is A.
Hey,
Hey, when y'all get hit by a pitch, he swung it back.
So let's reread the question, right? So
I'll read the question.
with a 1-2 count, batter 2 swings at the pitch.
He's out. It's A.
Ball is dead.
Ball is dead, B2 is out. That is correct. Ball becomes immediately dead when a pitch touches a batter, right? So we have an immediate dead ball, and the ball becomes dead even though the batter strikes out. So, ball is dead, B2 is out, R1 returns to first. With R3 on third base at 1 out, batter 3 swings, contacts F2's mitt, and hits a deep fly ball to right field. R3 tags up and scores. The ball is immediately dead on the catcher's obstruction. The B3 is awarded first. R3 returns to third. Since the offense scored, the play stands. There is no option. The umpire goes to the offensive coach and asks him whether he would like the obstruction enforced or the results of the play. The umpire enforces the obstruction. The umpire will grant the offensive manager the results of the play if the manager requests such, but he does not offer the option.
D.
Answer is C.
D.
D.
C.
D is in Charlie or D is in Delta?
D is in Charlie.
Charlie.
Delta.
Delta.
So let's talk about this. This is the question where I said you need the umpire's manual to answer.
Are you shitting me?
I know. We know it's a delayed dead ball, right? So any catcher or fielder obstructs the batter. In the umpire manual, okay, a batter becomes a runner with the right to attempt to score by advancing to first, second, third, home, blah, blah, blah. The coach or captain of that team, after being informed by the umpire in chief of the obstruction, to indicate whether or not the team elects to decline the obstruction before the next pitch. Okay. In this particular case, you do not offer them an option. You enforce the obstruction, and they have to ask.
What?
Yes, correct.
The obstruction or catcher's interference, right? So batter runner gets first, runner back to third. The offensive coach must come and say, hey, we would like to take the result of the play instead.
So taken out, but the guy scores.
Correct. So think about it in the bottom of the seventh inning, tie ball game. Right. You're gonna take the guy on first and third with one out, or you're gonna take the out and take the run and take the win.
But you first enforce the obstruction. So you put that batter runner on first, the runner back on third, and then you don't say anything unless the offensive coach comes to you and says, no, I want the result of the play.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
See the umpire manual for that.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm okay with it.
I'm not. It doesn't sound right, but I mean, that's how I score my test, but it still does not sound right.
Same rule in softball, Carl.
No, I'm not even softball. It wouldn't be right. I mean, is it explicitly written in the rule 521B or 811E? I mean, does it say that, or do I have to pull a third manual out of my butt?
Carl, I'm with you. I completely agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. I think if they want to,
unless it explicitly says it in my rule book, C feels like the right answer. Is that you go to the offended team and you say this is your options, but it. I mean, all right, whatever. I mean, okay, sorry.
Carl, I'm with you. If they want to enforce this way, I agree with you. They should put it in the book. All right. Another rules question. With runners at second and third base, the batter hits a fly ball to right field. The runner at third tags up and leaves third as the right fielder makes contact with the ball, attempting a catch. However, the fielder juggles the ball and takes several steps before controlling the ball for a catch. The defense then appeals R3 left early. By rule, R3 left early. True or false?
First touch.
False.
False. It's contact.
Give me rule.
The answer to that question is yes. It is false. I put these out of order. Sorry. The fair foul batted ball is caught other than foul tip. Each runner shall touch the base after the batted ball has touched a fielder. Right? So they can leave as soon as it's touched. So the correct answer is false. Okay, 8-2-4. All right, R1 on first. The pitch is in the dirt and blocked by the catcher. The ball is rolling away. The catcher removes his mask or helmet and uses it to stop the ball.
That's a no-no.
No.
R1 is awarded 2 bases due to the pitch being touched by detached player equipment. R1 is awarded 1 base due to the pitch being touched by detached player equipment. R1 is awarded 3 bases due to the pitch being touched by
3 bases.
Or we can give him home.
C.
C. 3 bases.
I'm going
This
2
is
bases.
right. We know it's a delayed dead ball. Each runner is awarded 2 bases if a fair batted ball or thrown ball becomes dead. Right. Lodges in a defensive player equipment or umpire's equipment or uniform, except the ball lodged in glove, or if a live thrown ball in pitch is touched by an illegal glove mitt, or if by detached player equipment is thrown, tossed, kicked, or held by a fielder. 833C1. Does anybody want to change their answer? Or double check me? Feel free to double check.
I don't like that answer.
I don't like the answer either, but I'm telling you, a copy.
Yeah, what's the three base? How do you get to what's the three base one?
The three base one is when a fielder is in the field, he throws his glove up in the air, and the ball hits his glove, then you award 3 bases. Sean, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I okay. I'm not seeing the difference of what.
Yeah,
you know.
I know, brother. I know. I told you they're nasty.
Says detached player equipment. I mean,
all right, well, we're not talking about 3 bases here. We're talking about 2.
No,
Page
someone asked a
52 on the
question.
rule book. 3 bases.
Someone asked a question about how do you get the 3 bases?
Yeah, so the 3 bases is on a batted ball. Okay. 2 bases if a fair batted ball or thrown ball becomes dead because of bouncing over, passing through a fence, lodges in defensive player's equipment or umpire's equipment uniform, including a pitch is touched by an illegal glove or mitt or detached player equipment which is thrown, tossed, kicked, or held by a fielder. So the answer to this question is not 1. The answer to this question is 2.
2 bases. Yeah,
2 bases is A.
All right, come on.
Yeah, 2 bases.
because the pitch was blocked, dirt in the blocked. It wasn't batted. It was blocked.
Detached equipment is always 2 bases. Minimum. Could have 3.
Always 2 on a thrown ball, not a hit ball.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to clear this up. So batted ball, detached equipment is 3 bases.
Right.
Detached
Pitch
thrown
ball or thrown ball is what?
2 bases.
2 bases.
2 bases.
Or pitched ball.
Amen.
I saw that exact play in a video in Major League Baseball a few years ago and got away from the catcher a little bit, runner on first. He took his mask off and he reached over to stop the ball from rolling away.
You know, we saw that last week.
Huh?
I'm pretty sure I showed that.
Did you?
It was Russell Martin, I remember it.
If you look at your detachment, I mean your metric, it tells you exactly on how to award the bases in your rule book.
Yep.
Correct.
So what's the difference between this and a catcher's balk then?
I don't know what a catcher's balk is.
So we were just talking about the Giants catcher, and the Giants catcher, when he did that with his mask, it was only face.
That's not a catcher's balk. That Giants catcher is an MLB rule. It is detached equipment. On a pitched ball in MLB, it is 1 base.
Oh, okay. So that's the difference between high school and MLB.
Correct. And there's no such thing as a catcher's balk in the rule book. What you're thinking about is the catcher not being in the catcher's box. It is a balk, but it is not a catcher's balk. It is just a balk. We will talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I have 1 or 2 more questions here. All right. With R3 on third and 1 out, batter 3 hits a pop-up foul down the third baseline. F5 makes the catch near his dugout and then steps inside with both feet. Batter is out. R3 scores. Batter is out. R3 stays at third. Ball is live. If it was stated in the ground rules, catch and carry into the dugout was legal if the fielder doesn't fall down. It's an immediate dead ball, right? We can't note that ground rules cannot supersede the rule book. So they can't have catch and carry.
That's correct.
Right?
So it should be A.
Yep. It's an immediate dead ball when a fielder catches the ball, right? So we know it's immediately dead. The awards table, right? Rule 8 awards table, unintentional catch and carry is 1 base from the time of the pitch. Okay. Again, catch and carry, not just field and carry.
Catch.
Got to catch, then carry. Field, then carry is a different rule. Right? And why it's only 1 base on a catch and carry is because they're assuming that is it a catch. We have an out on the batter. And if anybody tags up, generally they're only getting 1 base. Okay. So yes, batter is out and R3 will score. Okay. That is the last question for today. So thank you, everybody, for participating today. I do want to allow people who might have things to do to go tonight. However, I will stick around and answer any questions that anybody may have.
Good job.
Thanks,
Thank you
Steve.
for that.
Good job, Steve. I'm gonna hang out with you until everybody's off.
You got it.
I'll be here.
No,
So
it's
are
a
there
great
any
job.
questions anybody wants to go over while we have some time?
Good job, guys. See you Saturday. Dress very, very warm.
There you go.
Thanks.
Where do I find this umpire manual? I've heard it spoken, but I've never seen the umpire manual that you referred to in that last ruling. That
NFHS Umpire Manual.
oh, it's online.
Order one from NFHS.com for $12.
You shouldn't be. Well, when a coach is chewing me out, and I say, "Coach, obviously, if you look in the umpire manual, it will make it very clear."
Worse for football, I promise. You said you've taken the football exam. The football is so much worse. And then, yes, I agree with you. They shouldn't be trying to do this, but this is all I got.
The umpire manual shouldn't override or be different than the rule book. And the rule book isn't clear.
I've been saying this for 20 years. I have given up this argument.
I'm gonna answer the question the way you said it if it shows up on my test, but
right.
I'm just okay.
Hey fellas, great training. I gotta get off, but great training, Steve, Ty, Rolando, great participation. Appreciate you, gentlemen, and I'll see y'all on Saturday. Please make sure you show up. 8:40, 8:45, so we can.
I thought it was 10 to 12.
No. We said baseball at 9, right?
We did?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Nothing
We
went
did?
out.
I don't know. That's not
Yes.
Yeah,
Baseball
something
is at
did go
9.
out. I saw it. It went out. I saw it.
Well, I'm glad you told me because I've been there at 10.
We'll send it again on Friday, but baseball, we're starting and we have live pitching, live everything. We're starting at 9.
Yeah, it's going to be 30 degrees when we wake up. So it's gonna be
Yeah, I know. Dress warm. Once you get to moving, you'll warm up.
I might
bring
drive
all your
with my
gear.
beard.
You have a fire started?
Bring all your gear.
What
All
went
right.
out today? It says 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock. It says 10 o'clock.
It says 10 o'clock.
Yeah. What
All
went
right,
out today at 4:16 p.m. High school starting at 10 a.m. Lasting to 12.
Got you. We'll update it. We'll update it because I know I said 9 o'clock, but we'll update it.
All right.
We'll get it updated.
All right. Hey guys, thanks a lot for doing this. I appreciate it. I learned a lot from this and I look forward to next week.
Amen.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. So while you guys are here, right? We have a River City Umpires page, so we're at River City Umpires on YouTube. This one will be up there sometime tomorrow. I don't know what time, but Rolando will let everybody know when it's up there. Jeff, I'll copy you on that. So when you send the update, maybe you can just send everything all at once.
Steve, I got a question. You said at the beginning, you said something about a forced play slide rule. In high school, there is no forced play slide rule, correct?
There is.
They do not have to slide. They should slide, but they don't have to slide.
Yeah, they have two options, right? Option number one is slide, right? Done, easy, right? Option number two is they are allowed to, and I actually have a diagram from last week here. Let's see where is it? Let's see, legal slides.
They can just peel out of the way.
Right? They can you guys can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. On a forced play, they do not slide on the ground in a direct line between two bases, right? So that's the forced play slide rule. The runner is out. They may peel away, but they must peel away from the fielder. If they peel into the fielder or go in standing up directly in the fielder's path and interfere, they're guilty of force play slide rule violation.
2 outs.
2 outs.
Yeah, but in section 4, article 2B, number 2, it says runners are never required to slide. But if a runner elects to slide,
they're welcome to peel off.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's not, they don't have to slide if there's a force play.
Correct.
Their second option
so
is
they're
to
not
out of the way.
Yeah, I got you.
Right. So they can't go straight into the fielder.
Yeah, I got you. All right. I'll see you guys on Saturday.
All right. Steve, I must have missed it, but what's the rule on the, there's a question about eye black.
So the question about eye black is it may not be offensive.
Okay.
Football has a very specific rule about eye black. This is the diagram for your force play slide rule, by the way.
Hey, what we got? Hey, on that face paint, what we got? I stepped away, guys. I'm sorry.
It may not be offensive. Or the specific rule, it was a rule, it was from last year.
I'm gonna tell you what it is. It is that you have the kid remove it and you give them a warning.
Yes.
Again, yeah, don't say there's no rule or nothing can be done, but yeah, that's what you have to do.
The rule, the specific to it was a point of emphasis last year, Tyrone.
Okay.
And it may not be for the purposes of intimidation, distracting, or intimidating, right? So if you find it falls under any of those, you have them remove it. Other sports require only a single line. Baseball does not require that at this time.
Okay. But am I correct in saying that you have them remove it and give them a written warning? I mean, not a written one, but warn them.
I just have them remove it and don't let them play with it.
Well, and the reason I'm giving you that because
on the test.
Those are like the answers on the test.
What's the answer on the test? Is what I want to know.
That's what that is.
It says warn them. Have them remove it and warn them.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care and drive safe.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not right now.
Let me say something. The force play slide rule, that's not only a second base thing, but it applies to any other base.
Correct. You normally are going to see this at second base.
Right.
Right. And this is later in our session. This is probably our last rule session. This is slide 167 of 172. So this is a few weeks from now. We'll go over this in detail and look at some examples. But we not only have examples from Close Call Sports, we also have examples from United Umpires. Okay, so we'll watch both of those to kind of make sure that we have a full understanding of the rules. So if you call it, you know exactly what to tell the coach. Defensive coaches will always fish for it. Offensive coaches never want to call. Any other questions?
Not right now.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Steve.
No problem, Chris.
Excellent.